China used to be the world's consumer rocket ship. It powered global growth. It fueled Apple's iPhone. It made Louis Vuitton richer than ever. It drank Maotai like water and vacationed like royalty. But today, Chinese families are canceling weddings. Maotai is piling up in pawn shops. Teenagers are ditching Canada Goose for $7 military coats. And hotpot giants that once had 2-hour waits are now dead silent. This is not just a slowdown. This is a consumer crash. And it's deeper than anyone wants to admit. In this video, we're going to uncover why China's consumer economy is unraveling. With numbers that Wall Street today is still underestimating. How real people, from factory workers to influencers, are changing the way they live, shop, and think. What this crash means for global brands, luxury giants, and exporting nations. And why the emotional shift in China might matter even more than the economic one. This isn't just about saving money. It's about losing faith in the future. Let's go deep. First and foremost, let's start with the hard data. Retail sales growth was just 2.3% in April 2025. In Tier 3 and 4 cities, spending has even declined outright, or in Chinese speak, negative growth. This isn't one bad month. It's a multi-year trend. In 2021, consumption rebounded briefly after COVID, but by 2023, growth had slowed again. And now in 2025, even essentials like grocery and hair salons are seeing slower growth and sales. And here's a killer stat. Youth unemployment officially peaked at 21.3% before Beijing stopped reporting the numbers. Unofficial estimates as high as 40% in lower tier cities. This is an entire generation stuck at home, living on takeout, selling old clothes on Taobao, and watching their parents' property values collapse. Now, let's look at the luxury, the crown jewel of Chinese consumption. Back in 2019, Chinese shoppers made up 33% of global luxury sales. Beijing's SKP Mall did more revenue per square meter than any other shopping center on earth. Tourists from China were spending $260 billion annually overseas. In 2025, luxury sales number has been cut in half. SKP's foot traffic is down. Even duty-free zones like Hainan are struggling to move product. Brands that were addicted to Chinese spending are hurting. Burberry, China sales down 23%. Chanel, quiet discounting to VIP clients via private WeChat groups. Dior, closing flagship pop-ups and slashing local marketing budgets. But the most symbolic collapse, Maotai. This isn't just Chinese alcohol. It's status, it's guanxi, it's national identity. Now, bottles that used to sell for 3,000 RMB are now going for under 2,000 on resale platforms. In Nanjing and Wuhan, pawn shops report a 60% decrease in people selling unopened liquor. In one viral clip, a laid-off tech worker drinking Maotai alone in a dimly lit apartment with the caption, "Bought it to celebrate a promotion, and now it's dinner." Now, for the weirdest and most revealing trend, in 2024, a wave of influencers began showing off their winter fashion, 军大衣, the PLA military coat. Think about that. Young people in Shanghai and Chengdu are literally flexing $7 surplus army jackets. Ironically, but because they can't afford down coats anymore. It's not just about wants. It's a rebellion against fake wealth culture. And one Douyin user said, "Wearing this reminds me of who I am. My grandfather wore this jacket during the Great Famine in the 60s, and now I wear similar one in the current recession." This socialist chic movement has caught fire. Some posts have over 2 million views. Online shops are now bundling them with Red Army caps and selling out. From Canada Goose to communist drip, that's where the consumer psyche has landed. And it's not just jackets. People are eating out less. The famous Haidilao, the once iconic hotpot empire, is closing stores and reducing portion sizes. Meanwhile, self-heating hotpot kits, once considered as sad convenience meals, are back in fashion. A viral Weibo post showed a young couple on a date sitting in a park eating 20 RMB instant hotpot packs, and with the caption, "This is all we can afford, but at least we're dating." That post shared 67,000 times. And supermarket behavior is changing too. In Anhui province, a security guard filmed customers walking through a store for 30 minutes and then leaving empty-handed. No one was buying. They were just there using the free air conditioning. And this footage made national news and hit a nerve. Now we get to the core. The real estate crash is what really broke the back of the consumer. Chinese families don't just live in homes. They store most of the wealth in them. They raise the credit off of them. They marry into them. But 60 plus cities have seen price declines of at least 30%. Millions of pre-sale homes are unfinished. Entire neighborhoods are now 鬼城, ghost towns. So what do families do? They cancel renovations. They stop buying furniture, appliances. They pay down debt instead of spending. You can't stimulate demand when your base wealth feels poor every year. And this isn't just economic. One netizen on WeChat posted that his son is 28, no job, no house, no girlfriend. But 3 years ago, he had all three. And what happened to this country? Now, let's zoom out a bit. This isn't just a downturn. It's really a collective emotional burnout. The Chinese internet is full of new buzzwords like 消费降级, meaning consumption downgrade, 佛系生活, Buddha-like life, or 躺平, lying flat, 摆烂, just let it rot. You know, each one tells the same story that people are exhausted, people are worried, and they give up. Even in tech hubs like Shenzhen, young workers are opting out of the system. You know, no overtime, no career ambition, no spending beyond the basic survival. You can stimulate industries, print money, and pump liquidity, but how do you stimulate hope? You can't. Now, let's get global. This isn't just a China story, it's a world economy story. Because when 1.4 billion people cut back, the tremors don't stay local. Apple says China iPhone sales are weaker than expected. Germany, which relies on exporting high-end machinery and autos, just entered technical recession, in part because Chinese orders dried up. South Korea saw exports to China drop by 18% in Q1, their biggest decline in a decade. Luxury brands in Europe are cutting forecasts, slashing marketing budgets, and shifting resources to Southeast Asia. The average Chinese shopper used to spend 10 times more than an Indonesian shopper. No economy offers the scale that China once had. So global brands aren't just seeing lower numbers. They are watching the future they bet on disappear. Let's go brand by brand. LVMH is hedging hard into India and UAE, but China remains its biggest vulnerability and exposure. Gucci, which built entire lines and campaigns around Chinese astrology and holidays, is quietly cutting inventory allocations. Even Tesla, once worshipped by Chinese urban elites, is losing ground to local EV makers like BYD, and many buyers are just delaying car purchases altogether. And it's not just luxury. Starbucks growth in China has stalled. Nike and Adidas are offering deep discounts just to clear inventory. Uniqlo, once considered recession-proof, saw foot traffic decline in multiple major Chinese malls. This is not cyclical. This is structural. Now we get to the part few analysts talk about. What does this consumer crash mean for the Chinese Communist Party, whose legitimacy is built on economic performance? The party's social contract is simple. Give us control and we will give you prosperity. But what happens when prosperity disappears? Young people are questioning the entire model. Why study if the best jobs go to the connected elites? Why buy a home to get married if property developers are defaulting on their loans? Why save money if the government won't protect your money and the bank can just seize your assets? This is why Beijing is nervous. They have launched 消费券, the consumer vouchers, trading subsidies, even fake campaigns to promote patriotic consumption like buy Chinese liquor to save the economy. But it's not working. Because this isn't just about income. It's about faith in the economy, in the future, in the system. And once the faith is gone, no stimulus checks can fix it. Now let's talk about identity. The Chinese dream, as defined by Xi Jinping, was once a blend of national revival, personal wealth, social harmony. But now, young Chinese are rewriting that dream. Their vision: don't own anything, don't get married, and don't chase anything. Just lie flat, don't play the game. Retreat to simplicity. Minimalism isn't a lifestyle, it's a shield. Frugality isn't a virtue, it's a strategy. Millions of Chinese now aspire not to get rich, but just to avoid risk, avoid heartbreak, avoid online scams, avoid debt. It's the slow death of the ambition. And that's far more dangerous than a dip in GDP. Let's now ask the trillion-dollar question. Can China bounce back from this? Yes, but not easily. Beijing would need to inject confidence, actual confidence, not just liquidity. Restructure debt across households, not just banks. Create a real safety net, healthcare, pensions, unemployment insurance, to let people spend without fear. They would also need to tame the property bubble without killing the middle class. Reopen civil space for debate, innovation, and freedom of expression. Attract back disillusioned youth with real opportunity, not just slogans. But here's the problem. All of that will require the Communist Party to loosen control. And that might be the only one thing it will forever not do. So for now, we get half measures. Stimulus for the troubled developers. Party slogans about confidence. Online campaigns telling young people to 奋斗, struggle harder. But the people know better. They know struggle doesn't lead to stability anymore. It leads to stress, burnout, and a military cult in the winter. So, where does this leave the world? In a precarious place. For 20 years, global trade, commodities, and brands grew fat of Chinese demand. But now that demand is shrinking. That buyer is broke. That dream is gone. Western companies must now de-risk, de-China, diversify. But those transitions take time and come with costs. In the meantime, expect slower global growth, inventory gluts, lower margins, and fragile supply chains. The golden age of China's consumer is over, and no one, not even China, has a plan B. Let's bring it all together. This is not just a consumption story. It's a civilization shift in real time. From Louis Vuitton to leftovers. From iPhones to identity crisis. From property breach to let it rot. This is how dreams die. Not with a crash, but with a quiet withdrawal. And in that silence, the rest of the world must now reimagine its future too. If this video gives you insight, please click like, hit subscribe, and tap the bell for more fact-driven content on Asia's shifting future. And drop a comment. Have you seen any example of Chinese collapse in consumption with your own eyes? Will China recover, or is this the beginning of a permanent decline? And what would you do if you were 25 and stuck in this hopeless economy? I read every comment, and remember, what happens in China doesn't stay in China.